This is a poetry reading and roundtable edition of People and Their Poems with host Sandy Carlson and featured reader Thomasina Levy. Hi, I'm Ed Dzitko. Also joining Sandy and I in this episode are Susan Marie Powers, Samuel Gluck, Ann Abdo, and Linette Rabsatt. Thanks for joining us today.
Welcome everybody to the Oronog Mountain Poetry Roundtable for April of 2025. Thanks for taking time out of your Saturday to share your poetry with us and be a part of this conversation. Why don't we just go around and say who we are and where we're from, just to get a sense of our range. And then Thomasina Levy is our featured poet for this month, and so we'll enjoy her poetry and then each other's, okay? So I'm Sandy Carlson, and I'm in Southbury, Connecticut.
I'm Ed Dzitko, and I'm in the same place.
I'm Ann Abdo, and I'm from Scranton, Pennsylvania.
I'm Thomasina Levy. From Litchfield, Connecticut.
I'm Susan Powers. I'm in Scotland, Connecticut, in the northeast corner.
Hi, I'm Sam, and I'm a berry, currently in the wood, the berry of wood.
All right, welcome everybody. And I think maybe if we just mute our microphones while Thomasina's reading, that would probably just be a good thing to avoid echo and that's.
So do you want me to start?
That would be terrific.
Yeah, I was wondering what Oronog Mountain was, and I happened to be in Woodbury at the library there, and it's behind the library, right? Is there a trail up that way?
There is a trail and a fire tower, and the reason we call ourselves Oronog Mountain, that's our poetry group as well as our imprint. When you climb the fire tower, you can see 5 towns, and those towns are encompassed in our chapter of the Connecticut Poetry Society. And it's just kind of a fun thing, a little bit different. Plus, it's a hill, calling itself a mountain. But when you get up there, it's stunning. So that's the meaning behind the name.
I have to check it out with my friend.
Yeah, it's really worth the walk.
Okay, so 4 poems, right? You want me to do 4? 4 poems? Yeah. Okay.
Sure, that'd be great.
All right, so I belong to a poetry writers group called Poets for the Planet, and this is one of the poems that I wrote, and it's also been published in one of the Oronog Mountain poetry books. And you'll see the number. I have to keep changing a certain number. You'll hear when. So the overview effect. Spaceship Earth, with 7,888,000,000 crew members, banqueting from a finite trough of untainted water, air, and arable land, on a fragile cerulean vessel, delicate and luminous as a glass paperweight, glimmering against an inky scrim. 682 mortals have floated above it, in a cosmos of distant stars and galaxies orbiting and witnessing borderless continents, shimmering aurorae, spiraling wispy clouds, awakening to the consciousness that there is no them, there is only us. The next poem is called I Saw One of the Righteous 36. And this poem was published online with wordpeace.com. So in the Jewish tradition, there's something called the Righteous 36. So according to ancient Jewish mythology, there are 36 righteous people residing on earth at all times, called the Lamek Vavnik, the hidden righteous ones, or Tzadikim Nisatarim, 36 righteous people. They are not known to each other as well as to themselves. So if you're one of the righteous 36, you don't even know you are. Their existence is essential for the survival of the human race. For as long as they survive, Their virtues keep the world from being destroyed. So that's the background of the Righteous 36. I saw one of the Righteous 36 yesterday with burnished skin, as lustrous and fresh as a horse chestnut. He looked up at me from his wheelchair on East 30th Street as I trudged beside the homeless shelter on a forsaken December sidewalk, crowded with huddling men, cigarette smoke, metal carts filled with a life's holdings. When I glanced at him, he looked straight into me with a hello and a beatific smile so luminous it lit up the gray underpass. Later that day, I twice passed the same spot, searching for him, wanting to kneel in front of him, my head bowed in supplication with a plea for mercy and forgiveness. I wish you could have seen this man smile. He was one of the Righteous 36. Snow Song. So I started writing poetry. I mean, I'm a songwriter, I'm a musician, and I started leading workshops as an artist in residence in schools, poetry writing workshops, very simple poems with elementary school kids. And then I realized that I should probably learn how to write my own poetry, seeing that I was leading poetry writing workshops. So I found this, when there were newspapers, this little blurb with about Edwina Trentham, who is my divine poetess, and I started taking workshops with her. So this is the first poem I wrote in the workshop. Snow Song. There is a sound a snow-covered field makes in the silence of a winter deep. One Sunday, we three made a pilgrimage back to the wilderness of our childhood. The dirt road was plowed in only so far, so we clambered and tumbled over the top of the bank. Three sisters bundled tightly against the biting wind, with red scarves unfurling behind us like Tibetan prayer flags. Traipsing through white drifts, our frozen breaths rhymed and framed our faces like a dusting of confectioner's sugar. Trudging along the shadow balsam-scented path, we laughed and chittered like chickadees. Bare-limbed trees formed cathedral arches above us at last until the clearing, glittering, stark, pristine. Chittering abruptly stopped as a quietude enveloped us in a startling brightness. An untrodden blanket spread before us. Suddenly, I could hear it. Not a chorus angelic, just one long, high, crystalline note. I said, "Can you hear that?" I then opened my mouth and sang back to the field. I really did hear its song. The snow was singing. It was amazing. And this was also, I just realized, published by Oronog Mountain as well. Thank you. All right, so one more. And this was just accepted in your baseball anthology. Now, I had so much fun writing this poem. I Googled, well, I watched, you'll hear, I watched baseball. I raised two athletic boys for probably well over a decade. So I looked up all the baseball terms I could possibly find and shoved them into this poem. Strike zone, camping, feasting on oozy, gooey, sticky s'mores, becoming spellbound by glowing embers, hiking to the top of Mount Whitney, loons yodeling as the morning mist rose off the lake, Marcy Dam at night, gazing downward at reflected stars, twinkling up from sublime depths, friends, family, husband, sons. Crack! Life threw me a curveball out of left field. We dropped the ball on camping, and it made a change up in our lives. I became a ballpark figure who sat, and watched and watched and sat and sat and watched and watched and sat. No more loons, just ducks on a pond. I was in a no-win situation. I pitched a fit and called, "Time out," as I choked up and balked, "Hey, what happened to camping?" But I was way out of my league with these boys of summer. I just couldn't catch a break. My pleas were ejected and forfeit as I forfeited every single weekend. Just a root for the home team. I called a family meeting to touch base, maybe bat around a few ideas about how we might spend our weekends differently. But they tell me it's important to be on a team. It builds character. If you skip practice, you have to sit out the next game. My team needs me. There is no I in team. But you know what? There is an I in sacrifice. In fact, there are two I's in sacrifice, and this jock supporter is gone. Time for me to walk off the field and head for home because I am on strike.
Thanks, Thomasina. That was fun. I appreciate the range too. Wowee. I just want to open it up. Anybody want to comment? Just unmute and go right ahead.
So here's another slipping in a little baseball term. What's your sweet spot for writing poetry, do you think?
My sweet spot. What is my sweet spot? I'm not very disciplined. I wish I were. When I write poems, I use the thesaurus a lot. That's sort of kind of what I do. I mean, because I wasn't an English major, so I don't have all that background. My sweet spot is that having a poetry group that we meet every month, it really pushes me into at least thinking that, I better write a poem. And so words come to me, a phrase, that's how I write songs, to a word or a phrase will come to me that I start to build around. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What's your sweet spot, Ed?
I think I go to baseball and sports a bit. I go towards history, Civil War kind of narrative kind of stuff. And then I think I go to in the moment kind of poems, being present and stuff. Would you say that's about right, Sam?
Yeah, it's interesting for the people and their poems podcast. I just spoke with Steve Parlato, as well as Sister Joanne Iannotti about their work. And there was no conversation between them. They've never met each other. And they both talked about to cultivate your creative life, to pay attention to the ordinary.
Steve's in my writers group, and he is a stunning poet. I mean, his poetry just makes me gasp sometimes, the way he puts words together. Yeah.
In our conversation, he was talking about just that, the paying attention to the details and seeing things. And I think also having a poetry group helps, people that, there are a couple schools of thought on that. Harsh critics, people that are, going to really put you through the ringer, or people who can be supportive listeners and offer their insights as they're paying attention to you, which is an approach I favor. I think, I don't think people benefit from taking a beating. Honestly, just my theory, but I think all of those things and these conversations also are super helpful. Would anybody else like to comment on Thomasina's poetry? Or
I love the baseball one, like all the different metaphors or different, like explaining. And I know as a mother of four, it's like sometimes you feel like I'm done. I'm on strike. Go figure it out yourselves.
Yeah, I like the messages, and I love your wordplay. It's interesting. I think that was it your first poem it was your second poem, I think, about the the person outside the homeless shelter, and you incorporated some Hebrew, I think, in that poem, and then all the baseball language in the emotional realm. It's very creative, very interesting.
It's a good thing you never struck out.
No, I'm still married, so I didn't strike out.
You're a winner.
Mhm.
You won the game.
Oh.
Got the W.
Mhm.
All right. Well, and I just wanted to comment that the poem with your sisters and the words stark, pristine, and quietude. Just the three of those words together just struck me in that imagery of the winter singing a song to you.
Oh.
Because it's an invitation and yet it's a challenge, and I think to sing back requires some courage from all of us when we're being creative. So, but thank you very much for sharing those with us. So we have Linette joining us from the Virgin Islands. Thanks for zooming in, Linette.
Hi everyone. I was in
Hi.
between doing chores and hanging clothes and fighting with whether it's gonna rain or not. So I joined late. My apologies.
We're just glad you're here. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Would anybody like to jump in next and read a poem?
I'll read one.
Sounds good. Thank you.
I wrote this a couple of years ago. It's from Bindweed Anthology, Midsummer Madness. They're out of Ireland. And this came to me from a writers group with Craig Shirley, and it's called Driving While Writing. I'm the poetry writer with lines and words stuck in my head, writing them down with a notebook, sticky notes, and pen. I write at home, I write at work, I write after church, I write near the river. I write after walking, I write after grocery shopping. I write while listening to podcasts and watching TV. But now I can add to the list a traffic ticket for driving while riding on Interstate 81. For I slightly swerved and swayed on the road, trying to obtain the right word to formulate prose. The officer did not care, issuing me that driving offense and checking other. Writing in the back of the ticket for the officer, who was so kind. A poem, so to speak, with my autograph on the front. For now, you see, the Commonwealth has a new ticket violation category. Driving while writing. Maybe my fame will make the news at 11. Thank you.
And I-81 is just so much fun.
Oh, both north and south.
Yeah. No, there's some good long straightaways where I could see you would have time to get the pen out and write something down.
Yeah, going into Binghamton, right before Binghamton, there's no construction, there's no nothing, thank God, so far. But it was just like they were talking about, well, where do you write? Where do you do this? Where do you get your inspiration? Then after the class, it's like, aha, we're going to see if we can get a new category on poetry now.
Oh, that's cool. One of the first poems I wrote was by a bridge where two teenagers had crashed and the car, I think, rolled into the water and one of the kids died. But I would drive past that going to work like every day for a bunch of weeks, and I just had all this stuff going through my head. I wasn't writing it down, but it was coming to me while driving. So.
Mm-hmm.
So we probably could all just have our phones on a clip and say, Siri, take a note, or Alexa, take a note. And we probably would get it when we were ready to write.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's something where inspiration strikes differently, whether it's nature, on the road. I mean, she had mentioned things that are not so important, but they do become important. They turn into very extraordinary things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you're driving how you're, to a certain extent, your mind is free.
Mm-hmm.
you're watching the road, you're watching the mirrors, you're watching the crazies go past you at top speed, but you're still everywhere else possibly, you know. And my parents used to live in near Milford, Pennsylvania, and the ride from here to there requires a lot of long, boring stretches of highway, and I got a lot of thinking done over those years. You know,
Definitely.
and then sometimes you think, wait, did I go past that thing yet? You know, you suddenly it's almost like time travel. You wind up somewhere. So I guess there's the miracle is no accidents, right? Oh,
Thank goodness.
yeah. Does anybody else want to comment or jump in and read their poem?
I can read something.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, let me find the piece that I want to share today. It's coming up, it's loading. Sometimes the internet doesn't net the way it needs to in the Caribbean. So forgive me for it taking a little bit longer than usual. But I would like to share one of my newer pieces because it's National Poetry Month and everybody's sharing prompts. So I've been writing quite a bit and trying to expand my collection and try new things. So I'm scrolling down to the end of the Google document. Okay, here we are. So I want to share with you, remember me. Remember me just like this. Because I'm not the one who's going to take the piss and just sit quietly. I'm that girl that will respond. And as my word is my bond, it will not be pretty. Because although I'm cute, I can be petty. So keep this face in mind, because the day you step to me acting like you're unkind is the day that you find that you are cut off. And if I answer you softly, the outcome will be more costly. Response in kind or quiet move away. Know that this girl's not coming back your way. You're cut off, that friendship's lost. Be gone. In peace.
Oh, thanks, Linette. That was in response to a particular prompt?
Yeah, it was. The prompt was remember me just like this. And I guess I was in a bad mood about something that happened recently. And I think the feelings were still inside there. And it came out in this poem because I don't really use swear words. But if we say, you know, take your piss, you already know what I mean by that. So it's kind of an angry poem. And I don't typically write angry poems, but I was a bit annoyed about the situation and I felt like I needed to, as the young people would say, clap back. And that was the response. So that's one of I wrote that yesterday morning, actually.
Well, thanks for that. You know, it's amazing. Poetry's our friend, right? It takes all of our emotions. It's available to us for all of that. And that it's an interesting way to get to know people through their poetry too, to see the range and the possibilities too. Recently I shared some poems with some people I didn't know very well, and I wasn't they were poems I wrote a while ago to have poems, and I thought, okay, I'll bring these because I haven't looked at them. And I guess in the listening to what they had to say, I was discovering things about myself and emotions that I wasn't even aware were in them, you know. And that's, and I was actually kind of sorry I brought them. I kind of felt like they reflected on things that happened in my family when I was a kid, and I felt like I just wanted to leave that in the drawer, that those were poems for private, you know, and they served their purpose for me when I wrote them. And, you know, they told me they'd make a great chapbook about growing up in the 70s. The 70s are better left where we left them. But anyway, it's just really kind of interesting and wonderful, I think, that poetry can be with us.
I agree with you. And even though you may say, well, it may have been a painful time back then, sometimes our individual stories can inspire others because
Mhm.
even though, technology has changed so differently, a lot of the challenges remain the same. I could speak from my perspective and say that things used to be a lot more secretive back then. But now with social media, everybody's taking a photo, and by the time you blink, it's out there, it's gone viral. The dirty little secrets are now out. And, as much as you might say, well, it should have remained private, maybe it might not have been the right setting, but I still think it's important to always, pull up those old pieces and just share. And then you get to reflect on your journey and say, well, I've come a long way. Because my earlier poetry used to be similar to that piece there, but I've started to see the light a little bit differently. But I'm human and I get angry. And rather than going and jumping down somebody's throat, maybe I should just write it in a poem. So I would say, still share them, go back and look at them and see whether you could update them. And as someone said, maybe put it in a chapbook, and the next journal that comes out, the next anthology, share it with us.
I think you have a good title there. Rather than jumping down your throat,
Yes.
Yeah.
there's
Right.
there's the book title.
Mhm.
Thank you, Linette.
Yes, thank you. So I can go next if you're ready for another reader.
Sure.
Pull my poem out here. So in February, I went to a writer's colony in Arkansas, and I highly recommend it. And if anybody wants more information, I can share it. And it's a wonderful place to go because you get an apartment, 3 meals a day, and anybody can go if they write, or it's for visual artists too. And you just have to do the application and describe your project. It costs $90 a day, but that's for a complete apartment and 3 meals. And a very good gourmet chef from Slovakia makes dinner. It's like, whoa. And I think there are only 6 apartments, so it's relatively small. People are very considerate. There's some ground rules. Don't be noisy. If I have a saxophone, I was not allowed to bring that. And you have to keep it quiet. Anyway, my project while I was there, I'm working on a new chapbook about nature and humans and how we interact. And I took several Mary Oliver books, and it was wonderful. Every morning I would read Mary Oliver, and she would take me down wormholes, and I had her essays and so forth. So this poem I'll share with you now, it's nothing like Mary Oliver, but it is about nature. It's called A Gentleman. The field cricket is a gentleman, coat neatly closed in tuxedo fashion. No silly Jiminy Cricket he, but instead a somebody with dignity. Note the intelligent cast to his head. This troubadour shrills across fields, rubs busy wings, and keeps a steady beat. Above him birds chirp and squawk, random rhythms in contrast. He pulses. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I, because I am human, must catch the moment if I can. I raise my tuner. He lands on F, 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 F every time. Right wing rubs left, birds call, the cricket responds, reveling in April's surge of seeds and song. Finally, July's heat warms the cricket's core. He screes and trills until she comes. They cling, ebony bodies stacked like cars. She is his, making his eggs, or so he thinks, but mute eyes guard secrets. Jealous lover, watching every move, his antenna probe her belly, her head. Minutes turn to hours, and she's done. Bursts out of his burrow and into the light. Other males wait. She dances to them. Remember, cricket, You are the James Bond of the insect world. Serenade, court, and pleasure. Then, as a gentleman should, let her go. Not Mary Oliver.
Thanks, Susan. Anybody want to jump on and comment?
I love the imagery of everything. I really do.
I loved how, I'm a musician, I loved how you got your tuner out to figure out what note it was singing. I've done that with bird songs too.
Yes, me too. And it was an F. Like, what?
I think I can say that you're officially the first person I ever heard say I went to Arkansas to do something.
Oh, it was great. And the town is called Eureka Springs. It's a little mecca of LGBTQ liberal. It's a bit down on its heels, funky as all get out. People were so friendly and they just welcomed me, strangers, and they knew who I was. After 4 days, they called me the nice little lady at the Writers Institute. This is the nice little lady. I said, how do you know that? Oh, Gladys told me. Who's Gladys? They just, it was crazy. So it was lovely. Yep.
Thanks, Susan. I love the surge of siege and song. It's just really resonant. Thank you. Sam, you want to read for us?
Yeah, sure. Well, I wrote my first poem. I'm Sam Gluck. I wrote my first poem working in a factory in San Francisco in 1970. And on March 26th, Oronog Mountain published it in a volume entitled Muse. I've yet to receive a copy. And last week I wrote 12 poems, and I wasn't quite sure which one I would read. So I thought I'd keep it light. And I hope there's something in this for everyone. It's called Legend. Once I imagined I was a great poet, a laureate. I won the Pulitzer Prize for lit and the Nobel for bullshit. Before that, I was a famous actor and a rock star. I won an Oscar and a Grammy. How uncanny. Before that, I was a star athlete. I hit 100 home runs and threw 100 touchdowns in the same year. What a career. Before that, I was a little boy wondering what I would be when I grew up. Dream big, Mommy would say, and mommies are always right. It's so wonderful that all my dreams have come true and that I became the legend of my mind so that I can share my dreams with you. Thank you.
Sam, you should send that in because it's got even that one baseball reference would make it a fit for the baseball book.
Yeah, I think I wrote it after we met last week.
Sam, I can't wait to see your book. It's amazing stuff. And thank you for that poem. What inspired you to crank out 12 poems in a week?
You know, as I've mentioned this in some of the meetings, you know, I never know when they're going to come, but it usually comes when my mind is free, when I'm not preoccupied. I could be working outside or sitting in meditation or lying in bed in the morning or at 4 a.m. And I've developed the habit. Well, I have one of these little OMP books and I have a journal. So I've developed a habit of when it clicks, like when I feel it coming in my head, in my brain, I run to get it down. And then later I can work it, craft it, edit it, you know, shape it. But the important thing is to catch it while it's floating in the ether. If I can just get it and get it down on paper, then I can work it. So that's what happened last week.
Got it. Got it. Anybody else want to comment on Sam's poem?
Yes, I'd like to comment, Sam. I love the way you delivered the poem, not just the words and the imagery, and it's just the way you delivered it. So that was really, really good. Thank you so much for sharing, and we look forward to definitely reading more of your work.
Thank you. I'm working on my delivery, being a great actor, of course.
Go to www.samuelgluckpoet, and you get to see the book cover and get a preview of the book. Which I got a bunch of emails that a whole bunch of books shipped from Lulu, so you should be getting it any day now.
Oh, thank you for your efforts. I'm so grateful to both of you for helping me and bringing this into reality, helping me come out of myself. I've only had these poems like for 55 years, except for the ones, the dozen I wrote last week.
Yeah.
Fun stuff. I guess I'll read mine. And talking about the 1970s, this is actually, and Linette doing the hanging the laundry. This is a poem called Clothesline, and it's about my mom, and it would be situated in the 1970s. Clothesline. Our clothesline stretched between the back porch and the oak tree, 20 yards down our gently sloping backyard. The oak stood eternal and vast beside the 1920s stone hearth we used for a barbecue only once because it required so much charcoal. Our socks and underwear flapped over the picnic table, stained red on the brick patio between the back porch and the Bilko doors, under which we stored firewood for the basement wood stove during the many years of Dad's lone war against OPEC. On the other side of the laundry, our widowed neighbor wanted the peace of trees in the wind, privacy, deep dark, solitude. Thanks to her acre-square wilderness, our laundry dried unseen, though we lived on a very busy road. When I think of that clothesline on pulleys, I think of my mother's hands, raw and red, pulling our laundry from the washing machine, balling it into a wicker basket, carrying it upstairs and through the kitchen to the back porch, where she had to stand on her toes to reach the line. I think of her shoulders as she bore the heft and wet of our bed sheets as she pinned them to the line to dry. How intimately she knew her family, how humbly she bore our weight. Every week she took our clothes, towels, sheets, and made them bright white, fragrant, and filled with sunshine. She knew us well. She made things right. She seemed not to mind that it might take us decades to notice, that she might not be here for that moment of our awareness and the joy of it, that our embrace, our gratitude would have to wait. Thank you.
It brings back so many memories of my grandmother and my mother. We were neighbors. We were very blessed to have my grandmother live right next door to us. And it was like a community event when the ladies were all doing their laundry. A lot of good memories. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful images. I love the image of your mother standing on her tiptoes, and the way that in this poem this acknowledges her hard work and the reality that as parents, so often your kids don't appreciate what you're doing until they mature, and that might not happen for 20 or 30 years, right? The sacrifice that many parents make, and without grudging it, just because they want to take care of their families and nurture them. My mother had a mangle, so she would run the sheets through it. I can't believe it. She would iron our sheets. Really.
Yep.
My mom too.
Sandy, it was such a beautiful ode to your mother. It's just so much love in that. Did she ever get to hear that poem?
No, this one came later, and before she died of lung cancer in 2019, I had written a lot for her and gave it to her as a gift of love. And and they were tributes to her. And she said they were very nice and very true. It's very funny. And once I reminisced about the laundry and how good it smelled, and she looked at me and she said, "I'm very happy to have my dryer." So she could bring my sentimentality back to a different reality. But
Oh, I forgot about how good the towels used to smell. Oh, they were stiff, right? The towels were stiff, but they smelled so good.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us today. It's a tonic. Some of the conversations that people have been having of late is that we've got to keep doing our art, whatever form it takes, and just be connected as creative people, because there's where the hope is, and that's where the joy is. That's just kind of sustaining in so many ways.
This has been People and Their Poems. Find us at peopleandtheirpoems.net. Visit OreNogMountainPublishing.com to see our calls for submission, to purchase our published international collections, and to review our services. Submit to our online journal at OreNogMountainPoetry.net. Submissions always free. Have a great day.